Well, good afternoon to you. 506 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, we'll have brand new audio. Hunter Biden speaks. You'll be able to hear from him, get his reaction to all that scrutiny he's receiving. It's so unfair. And you can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Things are still wild on our southern border, despite the fact that Democrats, especially in Congress, don't want to talk about it. Here's a bit of audio from it.
Just arrived at the second migrant makeshift camp here in Jacumba Hot Springs, California, on the border. You can see behind me there are hundreds of migrants living in these camps. One thing that has surprised me so far about this trip is not only the increase in the migrant surge of illegal crossings, but that migrants from all over the world are crossing here in San Diego.
That voice, Jorge Ventura, my friend, international correspondent for NewsNation. He joins us on the phone now. Jorge, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, Vince, thanks for having me on.
What is going on? This area, Jacumba Hot Springs, California, this is right near San Diego, right?
That's correct, Vince. So Jacumba Hot Springs is about southeast, about an hour away from San Diego. It's a very remote area, and the population there is only 600 people. And what's kind of surprised Border Patrol agents in these kind of past recent weeks is just the amount of big groups of migrants from all over the world illegally crossing in this area. So when I was in that area, I met migrants from Russia, Afghanistan, Turkey, Syria. The most that we've been seeing, and I've been shocked by it, is Chinese nationals crossing in this area. And it kind of creates this challenge for Border Patrol because since it's so far out from San Diego and their nearest border holding station for migrants, migrants right now, if they do cross illegally in that area, are waiting 3 to 4 days to be processed, and there's no resources nearby. And since October, in the San Diego sector, Border Patrol agents have almost encountered nearly 10,000 Chinese nationals. So that's been kind of the most shocking part of that area right now.
Did the Chinese nationals speak English? I mean, the Border Patrol, I realize, many Border Patrol agents, in fact, probably the majority, at least, who are working the border are Hispanic. So I imagine many are capable of communicating in both English and Spanish. But this is a very different situation when you have people from all over the world who speak so many different languages. Is the Border Patrol equipped to even communicate with the foreign nationals who are pouring in?
So when I'm speaking with sources in Border Patrol, what they tell me is that when it comes to Chinese nationals, it creates a huge challenge for them when it comes to processing just because of that language barrier. And an added challenge in Jacumba is because it's a remote area, there is no internet. So you can't even, just use like a translating app to communicate with these migrants. And what's shocking is just the huge amount of numbers, and you're not really seeing Chinese families. There's actually, I took a video, Vince, it was a few days ago, where it was just a long line. It was over 100 Chinese national men, and, they have their luggage with them, and they are just crossing in this huge amount of numbers. And right now, Border Patrol is completely overwhelmed, actually. And also, earlier this week, San Diego County officials did vote to spend $3 million in county funds for migrant services. And when I attended that vote, Democrats and Republicans there did agree that right now they're getting no help from the federal government. And right now they don't see these numbers going down. And what's interesting, Vince, is we're seeing the San Diego sector, where I was reporting, get pretty hit. Lukeville, Arizona is getting hit with nationalities from all over the world. And right now we're seeing that in Eagle Pass. So this has been, once again, this is an area where it's a political vulnerability for the Biden administration, because the goal was to curb illegal immigration once Title 42 was lifted.
It's like I can't even. I'm asking these questions thinking like, is there may be a rational answer to this? And I'm not from you, of course. All the answers you give me are rational, but just like from the Biden administration. Okay, so you're seeing countless Chinese men pouring across our border, and are they really making asylum claims? They're turning themselves into Border Patrol and beginning the process of asylum claims?
So that's correct, Vince. And the thing is 97% of migrants that arrive to the San Diego sector will not be staying in San Diego. They are headed to New York, Denver, Chicago, and to other major cities that are already overwhelmed by the current migrant surge. The added other interesting kind of fact that we kind of found out while covering this is that Chinese nationals majority of them right now are flying to Ecuador. And the reason they go to Ecuador is because Ecuador does not require a travel visa from Chinese citizens. And from there, they'll begin that journey all the way to the U.S. border. And then according to some law enforcement sources that confirm with me that once these Chinese nationals make it to Mexico, smugglers and cartels could actually make up to $35,000 per Chinese citizen because they're willing to pay that amount to be smuggled to the U.S. border. So that's why when you see these videos of Chinese national men on the U.S. side, and what I get from a lot of people is they're very well dressed. They don't look like, they trekked a long journey in Mexico. It's because cartels essentially protect the Chinese nationals and put them up in hotels and make sure that they're flying, they're getting flights to the border. So you won't see Chinese nationals in caravans in Mexico, and the reason is because they're willing to pay up to $35,000 to be smuggled to the U.S.
It makes you wonder what percentage of flights from China to Ecuador are specifically for this purpose right now, and whether and it seems to me that the Chinese government would know all about this, and they're doing nothing to stop it.
That's right, and you actually have officials in Panama because the Chinese nationals crossed through that Darien Gap jungle that's controlled by narco smugglers. So the Panamanian government is actually trying to get the U.S. to send agents down to the Darien Gap and to stop Chinese nationals. So according to the Panamanian government, is in the first 9 months of this year, over 15,000 Chinese nationals crossed through that Darien Gap. And like I said, they're going to major cities across the U.S. right now. We have the mayor of Denver just recently also wrote a letter to the Biden administration saying they are completely overwhelmed. New York right now is spending an average of $8 million a day when it comes to housing these migrants. So right now here in San Diego, agents right now, they don't understand why it's happening here. This is really the first time San Diego sector has seen this many Chinese nationals. Now, earlier this year, I was in the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, and we reported earlier this year that there was a 900% spike in Chinese nationals appearing in the Rio Grande Valley compared to last year. So we are getting thousands of these Chinese national men arriving on U.S. soil. So this past week in Congress, Congressman Dan Goldman insisted that all of these guys are being vetted before they end up in New York City. Is that your experience? Does your reporting demonstrate that we know exactly who these Chinese foreign nationals are? No. So when I speak with agents, what I'm getting right now, Vince, is because in San Diego sector, they are so overwhelmed with migrants, essentially when they apprehend these Chinese nationals, they're getting quickly processed, and they're being street released into the community of San Diego. So since September 13th, over 44,000 adult migrants have been street released into the San Diego communities. So that's where agents are also worried from a national security aspect because they don't have time to do the proper vetting of all these individuals, and because all their holding centers, Border Patrol holding centers, are so at overcapacity, they're essentially being forced to release these Chinese nationals. Now, here's the other thing is many of them are being released with an NTA, that's a notice to appear in court. The issue is many of these court dates are not till 2028, 2029, even 2030. So, we're talking about years out, and technically with that NTA, those Chinese nationals are now legally allowed to be in the U.S. It's just crazy. All right, so what is, I see. I want to play some audio now. I'm so shocked by all of this, and I know it's like at every passing day we find out more and more about what's happening on our border. And thanks to Jorge Ventura and people like him. Allie Bradley is one of your colleagues. She spoke to an illegal immigrant, and here's some audio. He said that he doesn't care that Americans have to pay for him. He figures he put up his end of the bargain by paying the cartels to get here. Now Americans should pay to support him. Listen to this.
Do you care?
Yeah. No.
You don't care that we have to pay for all of this?
Look, listen.
Like Americans are paying for all of this. Do you guys, know that? Like this, money doesn't come out of nowhere.
Look, if
right?
I pay $7,000 for America, it's...
So because you paid $7,000, then it's okay if we pay something.
I don't care if this is for America. I don't care.
So you're because you paid $7,000.
Yeah.
It's okay that Americans have to pay some money too.
Yeah, because America is my dream.
Jorge, how pervasive is this attitude, the kind of sense of entitlement to be here?
And that's what we really see across all across the border events. Even when I was in Jacumba just now, you had migrants literally pleading Border Patrol for them to be processed faster. It's just, and now it's kind of usual to see them like on Facebook Live, even while they're literally crossing into the U.S., celebrating, calling family members. And when you speak to these migrants, they do not fear deportation. And the big kind of difference when Trump was in office was migrants didn't even attempt to cross illegally because of that Remain in Mexico policy. Without that Remain in Mexico policy, they feel that the border is open, and I was reporting in Jacumba, these big groups are being moved in by smugglers through open gaps in the border, and they know that they'll basically be processed and eventually released into the U.S. even to to a city in their choice.
Yes.
NGOs are going to essentially buy their bus or plane ticket to the city that's their final destination.
Jorge, when you talk to these foreign nationals coming across our border, how frequently does Joe Biden's name come up?
Oh, I mean, it comes up all the time. And these migrants know that the election is around the corner, and they kind of feel like, hey, we have to get in right now because we don't know what the future is going to look like. Many migrants thank Joe Biden when I'm interviewing them. They all say, thank you for letting like a family member or friend already in. So they don't fear deportation. Even, Border Patrol agents themselves kind of feel defeated. You can see that morale is very low. I remember just speaking to an agent, and one thing he mentioned was, we're essentially Uber drivers for migrants because we don't even deter illegal immigration. And that's, when it comes to speaking about, Texas and Border Patrol, that's where Abbott, Texas DPS, I would say, has been probably the most aggressive agency trying to actually deter illegal immigration. But Border Patrol right now, they feel really defeated. Morale is low. And in areas like Jacumba, where resources are very limited, agents are being pulled in from other sectors. I actually drove through the Border Patrol checkpoint in Jacumba, and it was completely unmanned. So if you're a smuggler and you're bringing, fentanyl into the U.S., you have a free go right now in Jacumba. That's really just the truth.
And it's deeply unfortunate. I saw another reporter, again, one of the few. We know all of them. We've talked to all of them. Bill Malugin over at Fox, who's frequently on the border. He put out a video this morning showing the Border Patrol has been handing out trash bags to illegal immigrants who cross into Lukeville, Arizona, and has asked them to pick up their trash first before they put them in the bus to transport them for processing. So at this very late state, Jorge, it looks like at least the Border Patrol is now asking foreign nationals to pick up their garbage before they're transported into America.
And look, that's really where we are at this point. And agents from Texas, Arizona, and California, like I said, completely overwhelmed. You could see it when you're down there. And right now, the nationals are just pouring in from really, like I said, all over the world. I met plenty of Russians, folks from the Middle East, and they're all really coming in droves. And for the Mexican cartels and criminal smugglers, they're making a killing right now. And San Diego is particularly interesting because in Tijuana, you have basically two criminal fractions actually fighting for that smuggling control. You got the Jalisco cartel versus the Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah.
A couple of months ago, actually, I was in Tijuana doing a story on narco coyotes. So these are criminal smugglers that are armed, actually gunning down migrants for not paying a fee. But right now, Vince, it's we have to pay attention to the Chinese nationals because cartels are making more money than ever. There's a social media Chinese app called WeChat that's basically breaking it down how to get into the U.S., flying to Ecuador from there. Smuggler guides get these Chinese nationals to Colombia. From Colombia, they'll get them down to the Darien Gap in Panama, then eventually, obviously, up to Mexico. And they're coming in the thousands. And I don't see it slowing down right now. And just to throw out just one more stat here, just in October, agents apprehended over 3,000 Chinese nationals. Now, compare that to October of last year, agents really only apprehended a little over 300. So we're seeing this huge Chinese spike in Texas, Arizona, and particularly California, where San Diego is seeing the most Chinese nationals right now.
Yeah, 1,000% increase in Chinese foreign nationals illegally pouring over our border and into our country and being released immediately because we're over capacity. And the reason we know all of this is because of your reporting. Jorge Ventura, thank you as always. Really appreciate your time. We'll check back in with you soon, sir. Yeah, let's try to make sense of some party politics right now. In fact, the Republican National Committee today voted to stop having any more official primary debates that are, officially sanctioned by the RNC. They're done. I guess they're checking out. They're done entirely for the cycle. But that doesn't mean there are no more primary debates. Apparently, the networks are just going to do it on their own. CNN and ABC News are now slated to host debates in January. ABC News and CNN both announced yesterday that they plan to host the 2024 Republican presidential candidates for debates in January. Daily Caller reporter Reagan Reese with this. CNN noted at the time of its announcement that it expected the RNC to lift its rule that barred the White House hopefuls from participating in non-RNC sanctioned debates, such as its own. So they had a 16-member internal body at the RNC, and they decided that the networks can do whatever they want. Quote, we have no RNC debates scheduled in January, and any debates currently scheduled are not affiliated with the RNC, they said in a statement. It is now time for Republican primary voters to decide who will be our next president, and candidates are free to use any forum or format to communicate to voters as they see fit. CNN is set to hold 2 debates, with one on January 10th at Drake University in Iowa. Its second will be January 21st at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire. CNN announced that its New Hampshire debate would also take place at St. Anselm College. But then the college responded that they weren't aware that they'd be doing a debate with CNN. Isn't that... Wait. So how did CNN announce a debate that St. Anselm College wasn't aware of? The executive director of the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm told the AP, quote, "I have no idea about anything with any other network." Quote, "We can't speak to any miscommunication with St. Anselm," said CNN, "but we're moving forward with our plans to host a debate in New Hampshire on January 21st. Oh my gosh, what a disaster. It's like, at what point do we stop these primary debates, right? I mean, obviously the candidates, they want to keep doing it, but like, what are they, 40 points behind Trump? What is even happening? Didn't Trump basically choose the RNC chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel? He selected her. And she's just washing her hands. She's like, whatever, do whatever you want. It's like herding cats. And CNN thinks they have a debate. The venue said they don't. Anyway, in case you're wondering, even planning debates is chaos in 2023. Coming up, I've got Hunter Biden speaking now publicly. He did a podcast. We've got the audio. Hey there, good afternoon to you. It is 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. It's one of those stories that caught my attention today, may have caught yours. The headline at the New York Times says, "Bystanders stop woman from burning home where Martin Luther King Jr. was born." Uh-oh, a hate crime in America? They're trying to burn down Martin Luther King's childhood home? Of course, they leave out it was a black lady, and they don't tell you that. Now, if it was a white lady doing that, do you think they would have left that out of the headline? I don't think so. I think they would have told us right away, white woman tries to burn down MLK's house. So what is going on in this story? So they say bystanders, this is the New York Times version, bystanders stopped a 26-year-old woman from setting fire to the home where Martin Luther King Jr. was born after she poured gasoline on it, the authorities said. 2 visitors from Utah interrupted the woman as she was pouring gasoline on the porch and on the door of the home, said Darren Shirebaum, the Atlanta police chief, who told reporters Thursday. 2 off-duty New York Police Department officers who had been visiting the house then chased her down. Oh, look, the NYPD is down in Atlanta. The 2 off-duty NYPD officers chase her down and they detain her until officers from the Atlanta Police Department arrived. Quote, "That action saved an important part of American history tonight," said the Atlanta police chief, Darren Shirebaum. Zach Kemp, 43, a filmmaker from Salt Lake City who was there with his coworker, said he first thought she was simply watering the shrubs in front of the house. It'd be weird to think she was watering the shrubs. She has a red gasoline can, and she's dumping the fuel all over the porch. That's a very, very generous interpretation of events. I thought she was watering the plants. Suddenly, she rushed up the stairs. She began yanking on the screen door, trying to get into the house. Quote, "which just seemed weird," he said. So we asked her what she was doing, and she didn't respond. She then dumped the contents of a 5-gallon container onto the porch, threw the empty canister in the bushes, and grabbed a lighter that she had left in the grass next to the porch. Mr. Kempf blocked her with his body as she tried returning to the porch with the lighter in hand. He called 911. In fact, there's video here captured by Mr. Kempf, who shared it with the New York Times, it looks like. So I'll play some audio for you. This is him confronting her. She's dumping a 5-gallon container of gasoline all over the porch of Martin Luther King's childhood home. And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?"
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, that's gasoline.
You can still breathe,
They're on their way.
but you're
Nobody's trying to hurt you. We just want to make sure the house, none of that happens to it. And
the video jumps and he says, "Nobody's trying to hurt you." They're holding her down on the ground at this point. "Don't you worry. We just want to make sure nothing happens to the house." Well, she was trying to burn it down. She's dressed in all black. She had a black beanie on her head, and she was trying to burn the house down. So just so you know, Martin Luther King's childhood home, his birthplace, A-OK today. Bit of a smell of gasoline. A little hard to get that out usually. But thanks to some off-duty NYPD cops and local police, they were able to protect the and those citizens from Utah. They were able to protect everything. Crazy, just crazy. But the media today, they're not telling you that everything. It's like, because this is such a sensitive topic, right? That like you should probably tell people up front that this was a black lady who was trying to burn down Martin Luther King's house, just to kind of let the air out of this, like just kind of bring the tension down a bit. Don't freak people out into thinking like, oh my gosh, I hate crime against Martin Luther King's birthplace. Calm everything down. Although we still need to find out what the heck she was doing. They say what little we know about her is that she apparently is described as a veteran who has been experiencing mental distress. She was charged with attempted arson and interference with government property. And the fire department sent out a hazardous materials team to try and clean up the property and make sure that no damage had been done. So that's the update on that story. Hunter Biden is speaking out, and he's got quite a bit to say on a podcast that he did with a musician by the name of Moby. The two men apparently had become friends at some point during Hunter's life, especially, I guess I would presume it was the last few years. I was listening to the podcast today. They were sharing, it was clear to me that they knew each other either from having used drugs in the past or from their recoveries, their respective recoveries, getting sober after their drug addictions. And in fact, actually, that's what Moby says. Moby does lay out here that he met Hunter through recovery. Listen.
There's almost no one on the planet who is a more polarizing figure than Hunter. And Hunter's a friend of mine. We met through recovery a while ago. And what's confused me over the last few years is comparing and contrasting how the media portrays Hunter, especially the right-wing media, but the media in general, how they present him compared to the person I know.
It's so unfair. It's so unfair that Hunter's getting any scrutiny whatsoever as it relates especially and particularly to his father. Look, the Hunter story is only interesting insofar as it relates to American foreign policy and his father enriching himself. That's the whole story. And then the media loves, and this guy Moby is doing the same kind of sleight of hand. They're like, why are they picking on Hunter? He's not even the president. He's not even an elected official. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's what the elected official did to enrich his family.
And I'm not trying to change anyone's mind about Hunter. I'm not trying to lead anyone to a conclusion. I'm just asking people to keep an open mind.
Yeah, that's a silly bit of throat clearing on his part, because if you listen to the whole podcast, you hear him. The whole thing is like, I can't even believe they're bothering you about this stuff. I can't believe the New York Post puts your name and picture on the cover of their newspaper. It's a big sob story. Here's Hunter telling Moby that the whole point is to destroy Joe Biden, and it's about destroying his presidency. It's not about me. Listen to this.
The way that I do it is, number one, I recognize that none of this is necessarily about me. They are trying to, in their most illegitimate way, but rational way, they're trying to destroy a presidency. And so it's not about me.
Everything is lies with these people. Everything is lies. It's illegitimate to examine how Hunter Biden, whose life was in total disarray, who was struggling with crippling addiction, who was spending money on literally everything but his business and on paying the IRS the taxes that he owed them. It's illegitimate to look at how that family was being enriched by Joe Biden's actions. It's so unfair.
So it's not about me. In their most base way, what they're trying to do is they're trying to kill me, knowing that it will be a pain greater than my father could be able to handle. And so therefore destroying a presidency in that way.
I mean, that would be, let me say something obvious about this. That would be the most awful possible outcome. Hunter Biden's death, and first of all, no one should try to kill him. That's like crazy. Crazy. And of course, like he's not even, it's like he's now turning himself into the victim of this saga. And That would just be the most awful thing. If he met some sort of untimely end, too, it would be just the most awful possible thing. And then, of course, the Bidens would wield that against the American public. You see what you did? You see what you did by scrutinizing Biden family finances? They wouldn't use that as the explanation. The media would jump all over that. So here's Hunter Biden saying, they're trying to kill me. What are you, nuts? Kill you? No, we're just trying to get the truth. That's the only thing any reasonable person wants out of this story. Now, Hunter is also still clinging desperately to the conspiracy theory, or at least advancing the conspiracy theory, because he knows the truth. That all of this scrutiny is the product of, quote, Russian disinformation.
Which, by the way, this whole idea that this may not in every aspect be a Russian disinformation campaign, but it has literally every earmark of what the Russians did.
Yeah.
There's, what's it called? It's called
That's what the 51 intel officials, that letter that they put out just before the election, they did that at the behest of the Biden campaign. So Hunter Biden's just reading from the same sheet of music here. It's disinformation. He still is, all these many years later. Has all the markings of Russian disinformation, telling you that true things are false, and that if you fall for them, you're just a stooge of Vladimir Putin.
There's, what's it called? It's called eliminationist rhetoric. Eliminationist rhetoric was something that the Nazis came up with as a tool to undermine their political rivals. And then Putin has fine-tuned it. And what Putin did when he was coming to power in the early 2000s was there were still some real significant voices of some with real money and intellectual public standing inside of Russia or living as expatriates that were speaking out against Putin. So what did he do? He didn't argue with them on the merits. He didn't argue with them about economic policy and democracy and the freedom to vote because he knew he'd lose that argument. So what did he do? He labeled them pedophiles. He planted child pornography on their laptops and their computers. And so maybe only 10% of the people then in the public.
This is the guy whose party is saying that all of Joe Biden's political opponents are insurrectionists, MAGA extremists. They're going to destroy our country. They're authoritarians. They're tyrants. They're hurting our, quote, democracy. I mean, this is all. Is it not a case of projection? Is it not entirely a textbook case of projection?
Maybe only 10% of the people then in the public would believe this. But then when he would turn around after he got 10, 15, 20% of the people believing the worst thing you can possibly think about a human being, and then when he turns around and said, and also he's a money launderer and he is against the Russian people, it's a lot easier for them to believe that.
At any point during that monologue, did you think to yourself, like, he's describing what they're doing to Trump? This description that he's laying out, you just slander him with the worst possible interpretation of events. You convince the public that he's just, demonic or something, and it's like totally misleading, and it's disgraceful and it's destructive. But that's what Hunter's describing. That's what Hunter's describing. Of course, the scrutiny into the Biden family is grounded in facts, information, truth, reality. It's not made up at all. It's totally authentic. Everything about the laptop is totally real. All of it. This indictment that just came out in the last 24 hours lays out in some unbelievable detail the extent to which the Biden family was being enriched by Joe Biden being in office. Hunter Biden was being paid $1 million a year by Burisma. And then when his father was out of office, they cut his salary in half. Why did that happen? Let's be honest. Why did that happen? And Hunter has it out for everybody. Hunter's mad at anybody who isn't towing the line with the Biden family agenda. Here he is, angry at Elon Musk.
And then you have the people that are the most culpable of all. You have the people that literally just love to feed it because they think that it is some kind of a game. They think that it is like the one thing about Elon Musk that I'm certain of is there's another very damaged human being.
Yes.
And I say that he is the dumbest smart person I think that the world has ever known.
To be fair, there are a lot of dumb smart people.
No, I know, but he now represents
I would say Rupert Murdoch is upset.
But you know what? It's like Elon Musk doesn't care about the goddamn First Amendment. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. And so all of this idea that he's a champion for the First Amendment and blah, 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 blah. Elon Musk doesn't care about democracy. Elon Musk doesn't care about our freedom to vote. He doesn't care about...
This is projection. Hunter Biden's party, or his father's party, is trampling all over the First Amendment. They're trampling all over voters. They're explicitly right now trying to remove Donald Trump's name from the ballot so voters don't even have a choice in the election. Elon Musk has stood up for free speech. Elon Musk, who's a bit of a cartoon character in any number of ways in his life, for sure. He's an ambitious thinker. I'm concerned about his relationship with China. But in reality, what he's done with Twitter has been on net an improvement. He took a major social media platform and he made it a safer place for free speech to actually be expressed and not shut down and not censored. For the town square to be more robust. That's of immense value. And what are they doing to him now? What are they? The organs of the left are working overtime to try to destroy him. I'm certain we're a week away from yet another scandal or something being put in some major newspaper. Elon Musk accused of blah, blah, blah. But they want to hurt him badly. They're leading advertiser boycotts against him. The major corporations in the country, Disney, boycotting Elon Musk. They want to hurt him because of his commitment to free speech. And that is it. And so Hunter here is like poo-pooing this, acting as, oh, that's a joke. He's a bad person. He's a stupid, smart person.
Our freedom to vote, he doesn't care about that. Is there any time that you ever saw anything from him that has any rational defense of democracy, of what we've created here as Americans?
Nonstop.
As his adopted country?
Yeah. As an immigrant, he is a better, more thoughtful American than you are. Without a question. And on net, he's added an immense amount to the American, to the United States of America. Hunter Biden has been a leech. He hasn't produced, he's destroyed. He's taken advantage of his access to power. And so the Biden family, they've been nothing but parasites on the American people. And they've been distorting American foreign policy and American policy to their own advantage and enriching themselves doing that. So yeah, Elon's done a lot more for the country than Hunter Biden has. But there he is on a podcast complaining about how he's being treated. It's 5:50 now. Joe Biden is in Vegas right now, apparently talking about all this money of yours he's given away to build high-speed rail to connect California to Vegas, so that Californians have another option to move out of the state. And he's lying again. He's making up a bunch of stuff. He said when the Second Amendment was passed, you couldn't have cannons. You could. It's like the whole thing. He has no idea what he's talking about. He just lies. But he was asked today about his son as he was heading to the Marine One on the South Lawn, and here's what he said.
Have you spoken to your son?
Have you spoken to Hunter? Have you spoken to your son? He just ignores them. He's like, nothing to say. Coringe had answers on this, though.
The Hunter Biden case. Any reaction to to what we saw last night? New charges, and then I have a follow-up.
Sure. Look, the president has said this before, and he will continue to say, which is that he loves his son and supports him as he continues to rebuild his life.
Yeah, he's so proud of him. He's just done such great things. He's going for a record now with the number of crimes he's committed. He's so proud. He wants him to get a high score. It's like, what are you talking about? Hey, the great one, Mark Levin, is up next right here on WMAL.